Mercedes got something new, so we're going to be going through that and 3 other stories in today's video. So make sure to like this video, and if you want more Mercedes news content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that red button down below. The first story is Mercedes are making new changes after their performance at Silverstone. Toto Wolff has hinted that the Mercedes Formula One team will rethink developing its car by taking inspiration from Red Bull. His comments come after McLaren's seismic performance during qualifying at the British Grand Prix, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri taking 2nd and 3rd respectively. McLaren introduced a major upgrade in Austria last time out and continued development at Silverstone, upgrading components including its floor and side pods. After qualifying, Lewis Hamilton stated that the MCL60 looks very similar to the dominant 2023 Red Bull F1 Challenger. Its performance has caught the attention of the paddock, given it started the 2023 campaign competing towards the rear of the field. Wolff confirmed that Mercedes already looked at implementing Red Bull ideas onto its car, but suggested it may have to revisit the idea in light of McLaren's jump up the order. "I think from what you see from the outside, which is only half of the information, is that the car looks like a Red Bull," Wolff said. "As a matter of fact, to be honest, it doesn't matter because only the stopwatch counts. This is what I guess Lewis was referring to, because this design seems to be a good direction. But it is easier said than done, and each of us had bodywork that looked like the Red Bull in the wind tunnel, and it didn't come in up in performance. So you have got to leave no stone unturned and maybe do it again because another team has just found a 2nd in performance." At the start of the season, Aston Martin made a sizable leap up the pecking order and scored a series of podiums in the opening rounds. With McLaren being the latest midfield team to show notable gains, Wolff says that Mercedes can be inspired by their progress. "I think it is very encouraging to see that Aston Martin found massive chunks of lap time from last year to this year, and in the same way you see in the season McLaren doing that," he said. "That is something that you need to take your hat off to, if we see that consolidating, and certainly for us it is a good example of how you can turn around things." Lewis Hamilton has hinted that Mercedes need to follow McLaren's development direction by taking inspiration from Red Bull. McLaren continued their remarkable resurgence with a 2nd-place finish at the British Grand Prix. More impressively, Lando Norris was able to fend off Lewis Hamilton despite running on the harder tire. After qualifying at Silverstone, Hamilton called McLaren's upgraded car a Red Bull look-alike. In the cool-down room after the race, Norris responded to Hamilton's claim by stating the McLaren in fact looks like this year's Aston Martin. Speaking to Sky Sports after finishing 3rd at Silverstone, Hamilton said that Mercedes need to have some serious conversations about their own development route. "It's definitely been an up-and-down season in the last year and a half," he said. "We have a lot of work to do. I think I know exactly what we need to do, and we have got to have some serious conversations about what we are going to do moving forward. The McLaren is proof of the direction they have gone, and it's impressive how quick they were in the high speed. We have strengths in our car. Long runs particularly are great. As soon as we have the rear end that they have, we will be on our way." Hamilton was pleased to see his former team, McLaren, back on form. "The crowd gets better and better every year. I don't know how. It's the pinnacle every year. The energy everyone brings is phenomenal. I hoped it would rain a bit today, but I'm grateful it didn't and everyone stayed dry. For us to get on the podium is huge. Congrats to Lando and McLaren. That's where I started. So to see them back doing so well warms my heart." The second story is Wolff reveals where Mercedes lost out to McLaren. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff believes McLaren's straight-line speed prevented Lewis Hamilton from bettering Lando Norris in the closing stages of the British Grand Prix. A late safety car promoted Hamilton to 3rd, and Mercedes opted to pit him for a used set of softs, whilst McLaren switched Norris to the hard tire. Despite concerns over whether he could hold up the 7-time F1 champion as he battled for tire temperature at the restart, Norris superbly denied Hamilton with a defensive masterclass through the middle sector to hold on to 2nd. The tires went off, but McLaren, just had a better car. Wolff told Sky Sports when addressing why Hamilton could not overcome Norris. "We need to honestly say on the hard tire being able to hold us behind with the soft, it's just a straight-line speed deficiency." When asked where he thinks Mercedes' deficiencies are, Wolff replied, "We're just lacking the straight-line speed at the moment, Silverstone particularly." Wolff expects a different challenge at the next race in Hungary, where cars are more reliant on mechanical grip instead of straight-line speed. But after seeing McLaren improve to a podium following a difficult start to the season, Wolff is confident Mercedes can close the gap. "It will be very interesting to see on the more twisty circuits Budapest," he said. McLaren made a big step ahead, and that's good for us to see that this is possible to how quickly you can catch up, so we've got to go for the Red Bulls. Mercedes drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell reserved words of praise for McLaren after the chrome-liveried MCL 60S caught the eye throughout the British Grand Prix weekend, adding another intriguing layer to the fight at the front of the F1 grid. Lando Norris and teammate Oscar Piastri wowed the crowds at Silverstone with a run to second and third in a wet-dry qualifying session. Before the home favorite followed Red Bull's Max Verstappen home for a memorable P2 finish on race day. That came after a thrilling wheel-to-wheel battle with Hamilton, who had benefited from the timing of the safety car to jump Piastri for third, and then apply pressure on Norris at the restart, McLaren having taken on hard tires, and Mercedes softs. Reflecting on his rise from 7th to 3rd, Hamilton said, "Well, firstly, I didn't do it, the crowd did it. Once again, Silverstone put on an amazing show. We've got the greatest crowd here. So a big thank you to everyone for supporting. I felt the energy, I felt the support, which is the reason we got back up there. Also, I just want to say a big congratulations to Lando and to McLaren, where it's my family, it's where I first started. So to see them back up there looking so strong, I mean, that thing was rapid through the high-speed corners, wow. I couldn't keep up, but we had a good little battle on the restart. The start wasn't so great for me, but the long run on the medium tire was really great. I think this is a good positive for us as a team to know that we're not that far away. We've just got to keep on pushing and we can catch those guys at the front." Expanding on his fight with Norris, Hamilton added, "Once he went through turn 13 and 14 or 15, he's gone. We had good performance in the low speed. We had a good little battle there. Just didn't have the grunt on the straights. But I'm really happy. To start 7th and come 3rd is a mega job. So a big thank you to my team. Great pit stops, great work all weekend. I love this crowd." Having come home 5th in the other Mercedes, unable to clear Piastri over the final stint, Russell shared similar feelings to teammate Hamilton when he jumped out of the car. "The McLarens were super impressive. They drove a great race," he said. "I feel bad for Oscar because he was driving really well. I've been super impressed by what he's been achieving this year and he was the deserving podium finisher. Unfortunate safety car timing, that hindered him and hindered myself. In the end, I think it was a relatively good weekend for us. Our pace compared to Ferrari, Aston and Red Bull was probably better than we thought, but those McLarens have just come from nowhere, so we don't really know what to think." Asked if McLaren's performance give him heart that things can get turned around relatively quickly, Russell commented, "It does. It definitely does. But you need to know where to look. I believe we know where we're looking and what we're chasing, but I don't know. I hope it's a one-off, but they were quick in Austria as well, which is a totally different circuit. Regardless, it's very impressive what they've done. Even so, I thought their strategy was the wrong strategy, going on the hards. The soft was such a great tire, they would have been even further ahead had they put the softs on. Interesting. A bit of head-scratching now." The third story is Mercedes made a huge mistake at Silverstone. Prior to Silverstone, Mercedes was very confident that its big upgrade would close the gap to Red Bull. However, lap time-wise, it was instead leapfrogged by McLaren, which had both of its cars running on a very similar specification to the package that was introduced in Austria for Lando Norris. So what's not working for Mercedes? The big development for Silverstone building on the major upgrade at the Monaco Grand Prix was only a front wing. In my humble opinion, that's where the problem starts. The front wing sets up the airflow structure for the rest of the car, and if the rest of the car is not what it should be, then you are simply optimizing that flow structure around a body surface that isn't producing the downforce or the consistency of aerodynamic load that it potentially could. It's also very easy to exaggerate your problems. The red arrow shows how Mercedes has opened a small tunnel in the underside of the wing to increase the overall flow, green arrows, that connects up to the tire squirt that goes around the outside of the front tire. This small tunnel can also reduce roll sensitivity in fast corners as the wingtip gets closer to the ground. Mercedes has also reduced the camber on the front end plate outer turning vane, yellow arrows. This is a small change, but it will pull slightly more airflow from under the wing into that tire squirt flow than before, green arrows. The area inside of the blue ellipse, first picture, is a little strange. The harder you work the area ahead of the front tire, the more potential problems you have when the driver applies steering lock. The thing about steering lock is that it varies around the lap, from high-speed corners that require very little steering lock to low-speed corners requiring high steering lock angles. It is one of the only tools the aerodynamicists have to help with altering the transient aerodynamic balance of the car. On top of that, the driver also has it as one of his tools in the car. If they have some understeer and by applying more steering lock it diminishes that, they can play with the balance. If they have understeer and the car doesn't respond to increased steering, then in effect they are just a passenger in a car, and that will dictate the lap time. Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes F1 team have had a difficult start to the 2023 season as they currently find themselves a whopping 199 points behind leaders Red Bull. Even though the Silver Arrows are still second in the championship, what is concerning for them is that they are also losing ground to the teams behind. Amidst Mercedes finding themselves on the back foot, Hamilton has suggested that he really doesn't care. Since Hamilton is yet to sign a contract extension with Mercedes, it is possible that the Briton is showcasing his loyalty to the team by remaining committed to them despite their recent struggles. He has made his intentions clear of wanting to help the team get back to the front next year, even if it means that he fails to win a race this season as well. Since the regulations are relatively stable also for next season, it will be very difficult for any of the rivals to challenge the rocket ship that Red Bull have built this season. The Milton Keynes outfit are flying away as they have won all the races so far, with Max Verstappen having won 7 of them. And looking at where his old rival currently stands, Hamilton is likely to be impatient to get back to winning ways.